it's a crappy one. Okay. Oh, faked you out. Luke Trovese. Troveses.
Hey,
Hey.
Corey Castle.
So let's just seamlessly go directly back into our conversation we were having right before we started recording. You you know, you know, intros and those kinds of just uh, processes can kind of get in the way of organic conversation sometimes. I'm now if I was somebody who could like edit stuff and had that skill set, maybe I'd like record something first. Like on this week's episode, I had a really fun time, having a really fun conversation with Luke Trovese. But I don't do that
Right.
because I like to stay raw, like Monday nights.
Yeah, but that's what I'm all about. Going in raw.
So we're saying the muscles and all that stuff came way later.
Yeah.
What came first was really terrible eyesight,
Mhm.
very very bad eyesight, uh, and awkward, skinny, fat, overly sweaty boy with a stupid haircut.
Yeah.
That all came, and the tallness and the muscles never came till like after high school. Like, it was a very late bloomer, and the
Mhm.
girls never liked me. Girls. Yeah, that didn't happen for me.
Yeah.
Nah,
Same.
I,
Same, man.
people just. I think what happens is, and I've made this joke many times. I don't think I've ever put it on. I've ever gone on stage with it, but I think that the a compliment about your looks coming from a straight dude, it means more. It means more than just any other lady who you see.
Absolutely not. This is where I'm gonna have to hard disagree with you. What the fuck is that?
Because it's like he truly means it. Because then it'll be
Yeah.
like, he has to walk it back a bunch. I'm not gay or anything. I'm not
Yeah,
gay.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Well, as soon as it's like that hetero who's kind of homophobic, he's like,
Yeah.
look, man, I just know, I wouldn't kick you if your balls happen to hit my chin. I'm gonna walk it back.
Yeah.
No
No.
homo.
No, for sure. I mean, like, listen, I understand where you're coming from, but like my whole thing, like now, like I'm a big streetwear guy. So like, if you know, like streetwear is like sneakers and like, designer brands and all that other crazy stuff. But like, that's all built around just dudes complimenting each other. So it's like a hollow experience for me. Anytime like a dude's like, "Hey, nice shoes," I'm like, "Go fuck yourself. I don't care, man." You know. And it's just because like I just hear it all the time, you just hear all that stuff all the time. So I was like, I paid paid like $300 for these shoes. I would like a nice lady to come up to me and be like, "I like your shoes," but it doesn't happen.
Right. No. If that's why you bought them for the wrong reason.
I know, yeah, but that's very true. That's very true. I bought them for myself, but it would have been nice. I'm just saying it'd be nice if a lady would come and say nice shoes every now and then.
I think the awkward, nerdy, skinny, fat, sweaty, dumb, bulk haircut and thick glasses guy was me way less time than I've been this version of me.
hmm
So when it comes to like somebody coming up to you and complimenting you on something you have or something you're wearing, I kind of get that. That
hmm
happens often to me. Some like people come up and be like, "Oh man, look at your hair. I wish I had cool hair." And I'm like,
Yeah.
or they'll be like, "Oh, my hair used to be long like yours.
Yeah.
I used to have muscles like you. I used to like." They always say they used to, and nobody ever says they still do.
Right.
And I'm like,
Exactly.
well,
Exactly.
if you thought it was that cool, why'd you give up on it?
True. And you got nice luscious eyebrows. Do you get compliments on those? On those bad boys? Very expressive eyebrows. Very
No.
you got good eyebrows, sir.
Well, thanks, dude.
Yeah.
I
How
think
did
your
that feel?
eyebrows
Did
are
that feel
pretty.
good?
Your eyebrows are pretty great too.
Okay, all right. It did feel pretty good. I'm back on your side, Corey.
Back.
Back on your side.
We can be
One man
friends
back
now.
over. We can be friends.
So, what I wanted to make sure I stated to you pretty early on in our conversation was that I hope you feel welcome and free and safe to be and do and say whatever you want to say and be and do. Because I I understand we'll be kind of getting ammo against each other in the ways that we do.
Right.
But like at the same time, we're just goofballs trying to have a fun time,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
that's what I think Comedy Fight Club is. And
Hmm.
last time I did Comedy Fight Club looks like a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
Excuse me. And the guy seemed like really scared of me.
Yeah.
And I really wish now that I had the foresight to be like, why do you seem so scared?
Yeah.
What is the deal? Like,
But
and his punchlines weren't even that insulting. I gave you so much. I gave
hmm
you so much, and you didn't use. And I was like, I the it's like okay, I've never won a roast battle, but
hmm
I every time I always feel like the next day, if I wrote a joke the next day that goes, oh, I would have won if I would have used
Yeah.
that joke.
Oh yeah.
If I would have said this, if I would have just said,
Okay, so the last time I did Comedy Fight Club was pre-pandemic. This was like Shane Gillis was like the judge. It was at the stand, and I had not prepared very well. And it was me and Dwayne Cullen, if you Dwayne Paul Cullen, if you know who that is. Another comic in New York. We had met like tangentially a couple of times doing an open mic right before Legion of Skanks. So that was like how I knew him. We
mhm.
like shared some information with each other, and then we just did the roast, and both of us were shitting bricks on stage. Like both of us, like right off the bat, like I got one joke off, and we were like, all right, we're off to a good start. Dwayne goes, he bombs, like his joke bombs, and then I go and my second joke bombs, and then we proceed to look at each other in the middle of, and just like look at the crowd and be like, I don't know what you fucking want from us, man. We just ate shit for like 5 jokes. Shane, I just remember Shane visibly being very disappointed in me in that moment where he was like, dude, what happened? I was like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I just didn't prepare. So maybe that's why he was scared. Speaking from experience, is maybe he didn't prepare as much as he would have liked to.
But I don't think because I've watched I in the research I'm doing, I've watched other roast battles that dude did, and he didn't seem as nervous.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't seem as scared. And and it was like, do you feel like because I'm a combat sports athlete who also which this part in parentheses you don't get, realize it's all a work,
Right.
realize it's all part of the act. I
Right.
get it. That's part of what my career has been.
Yeah.
Like I should have picked up this stuff way more easily as far as somebody who's been cutting promos for as long as I have and has
Yeah.
been talking shit and has been like fake mad at people for my whole life at this
Yeah.
point. I should be better at it.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
no, 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 no.
no, you know what? I'm not going to shoot all over myself on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just like with anything. It's just with experience comes getting better.
Mm-hmm.
With the best teacher is experience.
It's true. I have a good ASAP Rocky quote that I hold on to very often, where he goes, everybody thinks that, like, he's like, everybody says that failure is not cool. He's like, but you can't get to success unless you fail. Like, that was the gist of it. So it's like every time you fail, you're just one step closer to doing something cool and succeeding. But nobody likes the failing part, so fuck them.
Well, the thing is, like the failing isn't something that a lot of people see.
Hmm.
So a lot of people that have it, even like your most popular people, they came from a long line of failing. Like
Hmm.
there's a history of failing where like if you look at like the biggest stars, let's say you look at The Rock. The Rock failed for a really long time before he became The Rock. Like
Hmm.
that was just part of it. When
Right.
and I have no other examples. Just The Rock.
Just The Rock.
And
Amy
you know,
Schumer is still successful, and she fails every day. You know, we're all doing it.
so so you're 30, right?
I'm about to be 30. I'm 28 right now. So,
Okay.
what are you? How old are you?
I'm about to be 40.
Oh,
I,
really?
I'm 38 right now.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Hell yeah. What is those?
we're
What are those 10 years like, man?
bro. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's a blur.
It's like because I think it was my 25th birthday. I remember being in a wrestling locker room on my 25th birthday, and somebody said something about it being my birthday, and then this other guy who has since quit wrestling or retired, I guess you'd say, whatever. But he was like, "Oh, bro, it's all downhill hill from here. You're gonna tomorrow you'll be 30, and the next day you'll be 35, and then the next day after that you'll be 4." Like, oh man, why did you say that to me? Like,
Yeah.
I haven't stopped thinking about how that guy said that to me when I was
Yeah.
25, and 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 it's funny too. Like when I look at pictures of me, it's like I don't look a whole lot different
Mhm.
in those 10 years. I don't look a whole lot different except for like this is longer now.
Right.
Like that's kind of it.
Yeah. I look like I don't look much different either. I just look like me putting on a shitty disguise with a mustache, you know? Like that's pretty
Like
much it.
what was it? Woolly Wally, where it's like
Yeah,
the magnet
exactly.
mustache.
Exactly. It's on, it's off. Exactly. I saw that as a kid and I was like, I want that one day. And I got it.
So what kind of childhood did you have?
Oh, bro, it was a fucking my childhood was kind of a mess because I grew up. I'm Filipino and Italian, so
Mhm.
already you've got like my mom is like a staunch Catholic woman growing up who wanted me to go to Catholic school all the time. My dad was like a penny pitching Italian from New York, like so. You just had like these clashing personalities all the time. They were constantly fighting as kid when I was a kid. When I got into high school, I'm also like I'm pretty short. I'm 5'6", because my dad's like 5'10", my mom's like 4'11". You get 5'6" right in the middle of those two, which is you know, it could have been worse. I know that. I've seen some of my uncles that they're shorter than me, so I'm like, all right, I win, I guess.
Dude, you got that
Yeah,
classic short guy response. You said it to me earlier, and it just made me think of it now because, like, Ash said that shit to me forever, like all the time. Always go, he's like, "You're tall and have muscles. You got nothing to worry about."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, man, my lights get turned off when I don't pay my bills too.
Right, 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 right. It's not.
Like
I'm not saying like you have the easiest life in the world. I understand that. All right, I understand. I'm
yeah.
old enough to understand that now, but I do
Uh,
understand that. Listen,
uh,
there is certain skills as such that you gain as a tall person, and certain advantages you have. You know that forces me to be kind of like a loud and
when
energetic guy to get attention. But when I was in high school, I was similar, skinny, fat, bowl cut. Justin Bieber was at his peak at that time, you know, with the baby and all that. With all, so I had like the little bowl cut going on. No
Sorry,
girls were really into me.
the baby. What do you mean the baby?
The song "Baby" with
Uh,
Ludacris. Is it
uh,
"Baby, Baby, Baby"? You don't remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you were saying like "duh,
Duh,
baby."
baby. Yeah. As I
And I was
said that,
like,
I was
I
like,
don't know if that was that long ago.
no, 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 no.
And I also did not hear of this man's relevance until Dave Chappelle talked about him on stage. Otherwise,
Oh
I've
yeah, yeah,
never heard
yeah.
of the guy. I've never heard of the guy.
Oh,
But
he's gotten a little bit of controversy.
I know
The baby,
I
he
know.
gets into trouble.
Well, I googled him after I watched the special.
Mm-hmm.
It was on the closer,
I think so.
and he was like, yeah, this guy was saying all this, and as I watched him like saying like, oh, you got AIDS in the crowd and blah blah blah, and he was like bashing gay people. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I did watch this video once, and I don't remember. I The thing is, I don't. I make it a point to not commit to memory the names of people who won't serve me.
Right.
Their attitudes, their unevolved
Mhm.
way of thinking is not really gonna add any value to my life.
Mhm.
So when it comes to like these killers who they do these mass shootings and stuff, and then and then the newscasters say their names and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not gonna remember it. I won't.
Yeah.
I not only will I not remember it, I refuse to even say it out loud.
Yeah. Of course,
And
there's a lot of guys like that who are just like I don't even acknowledge those people because they
mm,
don't deserve it.
mhm.
But when I was in high school, I was like 15, so I had like the little bowl cut. My dad and my mom split up because my dad was cheating on my mom for like 3, 4, 5 years. And I had known about this because my dad was like, he was like not very tech savvy. He was like a goofy Italian guy. So he was like, he'd be like, something's wrong with my phone. Can you come fix it? So I'd go and fix his phone. And then there'd be like text messages from like his mistress that I just see. And I'm like, I'm like 12. What do I do with this information?
Mm.
So I kept it to myself. It kind of exploded over time and then they split up. So at 15, my parents split up. My dad stopped paying mortgage, nothing, like he stopped paying the house, and then like I had to like start working like right away. I have a twin brother, but he's like he's a little autistic.
What's his name?
His name's Chad Trovese.
Chad and Luke.
Chad and Luke. My mom and my aunt named me because my aunt was like, my mom wanted short names because she didn't want people to nickname us. So she said, one syllable names. And my aunt is like big into cowboy stuff, so she said Chad and Luke. So first one was Chad, my brother, and then the second one was me, Luke. And they, when that happened, I was basically like, oh, I guess I just got to be the man of the house now because my mom is like going through her crazy trauma. She just like she got, my dad got arrested because he beat my mom, and then all this other crazy shit happened, and now I'm a 15-year-old with a job, just like having to
Mhm.
worry about a mortgage.
And where'd you grow up?
I grew up here in Queens, and
Okay.
that's why, like, I said earlier, like, oh, my mom lives right below me. It's because I fucking pay for the house that we live in. Um, but like, when I was 15, 16, 17, when I was a kid, it wasn't really like girls became like a secondary thing. Pretty much everything in my life became secondary to just trying to pick up the pieces of whatever the fuck was going on.
Mhm.
Um, and then from there, I kind of, moved into adulthood, and I figured out I picked up all the pieces, and I was able to scrounge up like a pretty decent career at this point. You know,
So your shoot job is the career you're talking about, not comedy, right?
not comedy. No, 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 no. Comedy is still trying to get off the ground a little bit. Need a
Well,
little
I
more
think I
gas.
think entertainment business in general is such a on the level that we hover on
Mm-hmm.
is very pay to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's very like who you know and
Yeah.
what you know and things like that more than it's like, oh yeah, I'm touring and I'm making a sick living.
Sure.
Nah,
It's yeah,
that ain't happening.
it's never really that. Yeah, you're right. It's
Mm,
always about who you know. And I do get frustrated sometimes because it's like some of these comics that are like, they're younger than you, they get to go out on the road and they get to do all this stuff. It's like, yeah, of course you get to do all that stuff. You don't have any responsibilities, you know?
mm,
You don't have to worry about paying for what you got because you got your parents' credit card, you got this, you got that. What it is, but I look at that sometimes and I go like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. Art, baby, we're trying to make art.
mm.
You just try to focus in on what you want to do.
Well, what the way I've recalibrated it in my own mind is I might not be ready for it yet. I
Hmm.
want to make sure I'm good. I
Yeah.
want to make sure I'm fit for the service of being a touring comic if that were to ever be something that gets thrust upon me.
Hmm.
And I don't want to go out there and go, what next, guys? I don't know what
Yeah.
next. Like I just want to make sure I'm good at that point.
Hmm.
I want
Hmm.
to make sure when I'm holding a microphone, people look at me and go, that guy looks like he belongs holding that microphone.
Right.
And I think that I mean, of course, wrestling has helped me that in that tremendously. I think comedy has helped me with my wrestling promos, and wrestling has helped me with my comedy. So they they feed each other
Hmm.
in a lot of ways uh, for me to. And I think I say this all the time, and feel free to use it if it applies. Use it. If you can't if you can't think of an application for it, don't worry about it.
Hmm.
If you want to give me credit for it, neat. If not, whatevs. But I always say the day that I started getting trained by my coach Eddie Valentine, he he looked at me and I had like a blank stare on my face and he laid me out. He hit me real hard and like rocked my jaw and I was like on the ground. And he's like, if you ever look at me like you don't know what you're doing, if you don't look at me like you've got the purpose, like you belong here, like you believe you belong here, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And and I've taken that and been like everything I do, I want to make sure I'm doing it and it appears that I'm doing it on purpose. So much so that like anywhere I go, someone comes up to me and they ask me where stuff is, like they think I work everywhere.
Yeah.
People, hey, excuse me, do you know where the toilet paper is? I'm like, the toilet paper aisle? I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Look up at the signs. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I would do.
Absolutely.
Like,
But yeah,
I don't have
that's
I don't
definitely
have a may I help you?
yeah.
I don't wear that.
I've been stopped a couple times. You ever make the mistake of going to like a BJ's or something in like a red shirt or like a Walmart in a blue shirt, and you're like,
Target
yeah,
and red shirt and khakis.
yeah, you're like you're fucked, dude. You're getting stopped every 5 minutes.
Mhm.
But yes, you're right. You're right. It is more of a thing where it's like, listen, you just got to get to a place. You got to get in the Zen moment where you're like, bro, it is what it is. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe it's something else. But you gotta worry about you. I always like to think about Bill Burr when he goes, he says it constantly where he's like, what's the secret to doing stand up? I'm not gonna do the voice. I wanted to do the voice, but I'm not gonna do the voice. He goes like, the secret to doing stand up is keeping your head down and just doing the work, right? Don't worry about everybody else. Just do what you gotta do. And it worked out for him pretty well. So I hold on to that. That's my tidbit.
Yeah, I mean, because there isn't another Bill Burr.
Right.
Like that's there isn't another Luke.
Right.
There isn't another Corey. Like
Mhm.
we are the only version of us that exists. So we do our thing the way we do it. That's why I use the drum for everything. That's why I bring the drum with me to the ring. That's why I bring the drum with me on the podcast because it stands for consistency. It
Mhm.
stands for it stands for me continuing to beat my drum whether or not anyone hears it.
Damn, that's deep.
Whether or not anyone's hearing it. Because I think one day someone will be like, You hear that drum? You hear that drumming? What's going on over there?"
Mhm.
And then I hope that everything lends to everything else, and I would hope that for everybody else. But in my examples, it goes like, see this pro wrestler who is carrying this drum. Oh, he also has a podcast where he beats that drum. Oh, let's listen to his podcast. Oh, he does stand up comedy. He talked about doing stand. Let's check out his stand up comedy. And then it all comes
Yeah.
back full, 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 full. And I just would want to make sure that whatever I'm doing on purpose. I'm doing for the purpose of serving who I always wanted to be, and and really having that ultimate check in with younger version of myself, and
Yeah.
and being like, hey, I got you, pal.
Yeah.
I can't. I say all the time, if if my 15-year-old self could see who I turned out to be now, whew,
Yeah.
so glad, so joyful. And it does. He didn't know he was going to be a podcast host because podcasts didn't exist. But I would totally subscribe. I want everything I do to be something that I would be into if I wasn't me.
Right.
If I wasn't me, I'd want to hear my comedy. If I wasn't me, I'd want to watch my matches. If I wasn't me, I'd want to listen to my podcast. So I think like maybe enough people don't be asking themselves that same question. Maybe
Mhm.
more people need to ask them if you weren't you, would you spend money on checking you out?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a thing that I think about all the time where I'm like, is this going to make my like 15-year-old self happy? Absolutely. That is something that's always in the back of my head. That's why the microphone. The microphone was like I was big into like all of this stuff when I was a kid and I couldn't afford it obviously because crazy stuff happened in my life and then now I'm an adult and I'm like I can afford all of it now. You can pay for the fucking house and get the Supreme microphone and everybody's still fine. It's
So
nice.
is it a microphone released by Supreme?
It is a Shure microphone that they did in collaboration with Supreme.
Okay.
So it's like an official Shure microphone. It actually broke on me once, and I had to
Uh-huh.
send it into Shure, and they were like, "We can give you a replacement like black one." And I
Mhm.
made a big stink over the phone, and I had like the guys who were like sending it in for me make a big stink over the phone because they were like, "Look, dude, it's a limited edition. He's a New Yorker. Like this is big. You gotta just get it fixed." So they fixed it for me, but they were really griping about it because they were like, it's going to cost more to fix than it costs to buy. And I was like, I guarantee it doesn't cost more. It doesn't. So they fixed it for me, but like I had to like, I don't know. There's so many issues with it already. But it's my, every time I pull it out, I feel like I'm having a good time. Every time I pull it out on stage, it's always my favorite thing because it's like a gamble every time, you
Are
know.
you like an audio producer? Is that another thing you were doing at Gas?
I was like so during when I was at Legion of Skanks, I used to intern for them. It's like back in, oh my god, 2017 at this point, I think. It was like 5 years ago, maybe at this point. When I was working for them, I was interning. I would run the boards. I would do the soundboards for them at Legion of Skanks. And then during the day when I actually worked there, I was like printing t-shirts for them. That was like my gig. That was like they give like the t-shirt job to the guy who they don't know what to do with, but they like having around.
Mhm.
That was like that was the role I had, where it was like I knew I didn't want to do like audio production stuff because I knew it was going to take away from doing comedy. And then also it's like those shows are so demanding because it's not your schedule anymore. It's whatever the host's schedule is, right? So
Mhm.
you're playing to whatever the hosts are doing. And I had a full-time job, I had the internship, and then I had, comedy stuff, and I was trying to juggle all three. And I didn't have the time to be as flexible as everybody else. So I was like, let me come in for like a couple hours a week and print some t-shirts for you guys. And like run customer service. Like that was what I would do. Yeah.
That was a cool place to be the 2 times I was there. I dug it.
Yeah, it is a pretty cool place. If you're ever there again, I highly suggest using their bathrooms. Well,
It's very very well decorated.
well, not only that, they've got a bidet. Have you used a bidet? I feel like,
I have 2 bidets at my house.
oh,
I
you're not
I
even missing anything, but
I,
they're great. They're amazing.
I've I'm spoiled by it.
Yeah,
I can't poop in public.
yeah.
Like I just feel like I feel like I'm dirty all day.
Hmm, hmm.
I gotta get clean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even if it was like a bad constipated dump when I went to Gas Digital, I'd always feel good leaving because I used the bidet. You're
Mhm.
like, didn't matter what was coming out. You had that fresh water hitting your butt, and you're like, I'm fine.
It really makes your bidet.
Yeah. I'm gonna. All right. Fun time. Good to see you, Corey.
So I wanted to make sure that I gave you the opportunity to ask me anything you'd want to ask me or
Yeah.
tell me anything you want to tell me while it's right here on the record. For sure, if it's stuff that has to do with the roast battle that we're supposed to do, cool, whatever. But
Mhm.
on top of that, this stuff is outliving us.
Right.
This is something that's on the record forever, not going away. So this is for sure the way I'm looking at it. And while we're on the record, I want to just make sure I mention how stoked I am that this is just the beginning.
Right.
This is just the beginning of what our friendship winds up being.
Yeah.
And it's been like a half hour, and we've
Mhm.
been having a fun, chill ass time.
We're vibing pretty hard already. We're having a pretty good time. As far as like, I don't know, like what kind of so what got you into wrestling? I think that's like a big thing. I'm sure you've talked about it in the podcast before, which is why I'm like, I don't know what to ask as far as ad nauseum questions goes. I don't want to bore your listeners with it, but
I think enough time passes in between stuff where
mhm.
if I can say the same stories, if I can recycle the same stuff, it's not like it proves that I'm not lying.
Right,
It
that's
pro-
true.
it also proves that I'm for sure on this path that I'm saying I'm on, and I'm
Mhm.
truly on it.
Yeah.
So when it came to finding wrestling,
Mhm.
uh, I would say I I kind of really got into WrestleMania 12.
Mhm.
I think WrestleMania, maybe WrestleMania 13, with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret the Hitman Hart in the I Quit match.
Mhm.
That was like what made me go, okay, I really like this. I'm going to keep
Yeah.
on liking this. But like I kind of fell off a little bit.
Mhm.
And then maybe not even a year later, they had the first Hell in a Cell match, which is Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, which was also the debut of Kane. That was like, okay, I have to watch it every single week now, and I'll
Yeah.
never. I honestly think that if I would have, and this is another thing, I haven't really dove too much on stage into this, but it's something that like for sure has been an obstacle for me. When I was a kid, I never paid attention to what time it was. I didn't know what day of the week it ever was. Like that stuff was never on my brain. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't keep track of shows to watch. I would just turn the TV on and watch what was on because
Right.
I never thought about what day of the week it was. It didn't matter to me. So when I finally watched Hell in a Cell, I was like, okay, Monday Night Raw, USA, 9 o'clock, gotta watch it every week. And then inside of that, the Monday Night Wars were there, which I mean, you probably have no idea what that is,
Yeah.
but
I don't. Uh-huh.
WCW at the time, you've heard of WCW?
I have.
World Championship Wrestling.
Mhm.
They had a show on TNT on Monday nights
Mhm.
that was running at the exact same time as Monday Night Raw. So, like when a commercial would come on Monday Night Raw, flip over to TNT and watch a little bit of WCW, and then when that went to a commercial, jump right back to WWE or WWF at the time.
Mhm.
And it wound up becoming WWE in
Was it they
2000
merged together?
when they, well, kinda. That's kind
Yeah.
of the way I'd like to like. Okay, yeah, that's how it worked. Just to easily
I
like
love I love
not over
the
explain it.
actually nerddom that's coming through where you're like,
Well,
well,
he's not technically, but like actually,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So it's fully nerd. It's
right.
fully nerd time. But it was WCW and ECW both got bought by the WWE in 2001. So
Mhm.
or the WWF in
Mhm.
2001, and then at the very same time, WWF was being sued by the World Wildlife Fund, like that panda company,
Right.
WWF, and they lost the lawsuit. So then they had to switch to WWE, which kind of was all right anyway because
Mhm.
they had just consumed their competitors and became one monopoly
Right.
for mainstream pro wrestling.
And how that got you into wrestling? Like when you were young, you were just like, "This is amazing. I'm gonna." And that's what when you decided you wanted to get into it, or like when
Yeah,
you got older, you like you put your mind to it, and you were like, "I'm gonna will myself into a body that can wrestle."
no, when I was 12,
Mhm.
I was a huge fan of it when I was
Mhm.
12. And then when I was 14 years old,
Mhm.
my friend Scott found a found an article in the newspaper talking about people our age going to this wrestling training center that was like right down the street from where we live. And we were like, okay, we got to go. So it was the summer before ninth grade.
Mhm.
I was 14 years old when I stepped into a pro wrestling ring for the first time, and I've never stepped away from it.
Hell yeah, dude. That's what I like to hear.
So I definitely did not have the kind of body that was that was equipped for pro wrestling, and I for sure did not have I was not a natural at it. It took me a long time to pick it up, but I knew that I couldn't live in a world where I wasn't good at this.
Mhm.
It was, and I don't think I had the actual awareness to think that that was the way it was, but I knew that I had to stay consistent in figuring it out. And even like I said, when I met Eddie Valentine, I met Eddie Valentine when I was 16, 17, so I'd already been kind of in it and not picking it up for 2, 3 years before Eddie started like coaching me in the right directions and making me understand
Mhm.
the presence and the psychology, which I did not. I mean, my other trainer, John Dahmer, was teaching me the techniques. He was
Mhm.
teaching me the techniques and the power. But for me, I didn't have power. I was not strong at all. So I was a bump dummy for years. I
Right.
just let other people throw me around because I was light enough for them to pick me up.
Yeah. That was kind of what like I mentioned earlier. I think before we started recording, I worked in a comic book warehouse. That was like a place I worked for a while, and I had a couple of wrestlers that I worked with, and they would be like, "Oh, dude, I can literally just show you exactly what I would do to people," and because I'm like half their size, it would just be like it'd be fun. Like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna go this way, and we're gonna go this," and then people would be like, "You got to stop doing that. That's a liability," and we're like, "No, we're fine, we're fine." But yes, I've also been a what did you call it, a bump dummy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that too. Not to your degree, but I've taken a crash course. Let's just say that. So that's cool. Like, what happened? Have you broken any bones? Like, what's the most traumatic injury you've gotten in wrestling?
Well,
Or do you just have a lingering back pain for forever?
well, I think that the research has shown that they say that one match is the equivalent of, or at least like one back bump, one like flat
Mhm.
back bump is like the equivalent of being in a car accident.
Yeah.
So if I've taken millions of them
Mm-hmm.
over the last 23 years, I would have to say my back sucks,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's my I've adapted to it. I've oriented to it, so it's not like overly ruined. I've been very, very lucky to have been doing it for as long as I have without having injuries,
Mhm.
without having any major injuries.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
I know when early on I broke my nose like 3 or 4 times. I've broken like my big toes a couple times. I broke my thumbs, uh, my ankles.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing huge, nothing major.
Yeah, no collarbones, no knees, nothing like
No,
that.
no,
No, no L4, L5 discs, none of that. You're good.
no,
You're chilling,
no.
man. That's
I
good.
think
That's really good.
I like bruised and cracked some ribs a couple times. And those,
Yeah.
as soon as you kind of like break the seal on it,
Hmm.
it's just as bad every single time.
Yeah.
It's like you're more susceptible to it happening again.
Hmm.
Just from what I gather, I don't have the research to back that up. I've
Yeah.
never talked to experts about it, but from my opinion, my expert opinion, for
Mhm.
somebody who's had cracked ribs and broken ribs before, I'd have to say it 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 seems like once you kind of open it's kind of like breaking the seal, like taking a piss when you started
Mhm.
drinking. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's,
Gotcha.
it's like,
I do understand that in the sense that like the last time I sprained something was rather recently, and it was like I was out, I was doing comedy. I was at a Jimmy People show in the bitter end in the city in New York City, and we were like, it was a show, it was like getting a little warm, and I had like 4 layers on, and I tried to take off all my layers at once, and I sprained my thumb that way. Um which is like a great way to find out that you're weak, you know? It's a great way to find out how weak you are. Is you try to take 4 sweaters off at once and you just hear and you're like, that's not how that's supposed to go. But ever since then, and this was like 3 months ago maybe at this point, I still feel like the doctors are like, yeah, your thumb's fine, but every now and then I get that ghost pain of like I know what kind of pain this can be, you know?
I fully understand like uh having a conversation with like your inner bitch. Like
Yeah.
you're like, wow, man, you're really a bitch today.
Yeah.
Like I fully get that.
Mhm.
I fully relate in so many ways.
I laugh about it obviously because you're like, there's nothing you can do. You just, work out a
Mhm.
little bit more. Maybe that's the best I can do. That's just your body telling you like, hey, maybe we should try to stay active as we get older. But besides, it's just it was a little embarrassing was the big thing about it. It was just like, this is not how I want this to happen.
Mhm. Well,
I
yeah, I
thought it was
mean, you could have like when you took it off and you were like, oh, that hurts. You could have been like, oh, I fell down. Ah,
yeah. True. I could have
absolutely
used
acted
some.
like it was something else.
I could have done some real wrestling moves. I could have hammed it up a little bit and just been like, just punch something maybe and be like, oh no, look at that. Throw a fake punch. Gah!
Stomp your foot.
Yeah. Damn, I got mad at the wall and I punched it too hard and I sprained my thumb. I should have done that.
some guy grabbed my girlfriend's ass. Wait, you have a girlfriend? No, I'm talking about like 9th grade, and I'm still bitter over it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just working out some inner demons. With this wall reminded me of fucking Brian Callahan from fucking 7th grade stealing my girl. Ridiculous.
So, in your comedy styles, like when you're writing, do you work anything out up on stage, or do you have like do you write everything out? Do you like try out new stuff at open mics and then like do it kind of that way and maneuver it that way? What's your preferred method?
So my preferred method. So when I was first starting out, I would like write everything verbatim and then I'd go up on stage. But I knew that didn't really work for me. So as I got into it longer, I just started coming up with topics, and then I would just be like, all right, let me riff on this topic, and then I'd have like a punchline, an idea of a punchline in my head, and I'd try to get to that punchline as quick as possible, and then I'd see what kind of natural riffs would come from that. And at this point, it's basically like anytime I get stage time, I'll just like, all right, I'll throw in like a new joke or two to like just work out, just to make sure that like, you know, the brain's still working. But for the most part, I'm not really going to open mics as much anymore. I work from, so I live out in Jamaica, which is like super far, Queens. Like I got to take a bus and then a train to get into the city. So it's not really conducive for me to go to a mic at like 8 o'clock and then come directly home at 9:30 and then have to wake up the next day and talk about software sales the next day. That sucks. As I get older, I'm like, I don't need to do that anymore. I've done this for like 7 years. I know how to write a joke in my head. I'll just keep doing that. So that's what I've been doing as of recently. And it kind of forces you to like sit down and physically write again. Like I'm back in that kind of train where it's like, all right, well, if nobody's around and I can't really practice anything, I should at least try to get these ideas out somehow, you know. What about you? What's your process? Are you a writing guy?
I'm not. No, I mean, I have sort of premises that I go off of, and then and try to word it however I feel like it would be the most like genuine and sincere coming out of me while I'm up on stage, and that's how I'll find it out. I'll find it out while I'm doing it, because if I overthink it, I'll stumble.
And then you're not your authentic self on stage, which is like the big thing that sucks, right? Because like that was like my goal when I first started, was like I want to just be as much of me on stage as I possibly can when I get up there, because like I feel like every time you go up there and you're like kind of reading off a script, it feels like you're just like there's like a part, you know what I mean? Like where it's like your body's up on stage, but your mind's in the back. Like you could have done better. You know, you could have done better. You know, if you were present, you might have been able to riff on that, but you didn't.
It's like you're doing karaoke, kind of.
Right.
Like you're just kind of doing like cover band material for your own stuff.
Yeah, like we're doing Hanson's Bop on stage.
I'm a cowboy on a steel horse I ride.
Exactly.
Wait, is this the cadence? How this goes?
Exactly. Is this how it goes? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. I do like that. It really is in my opinion, it is for a guy like you who's been doing wrestling for years. You know how to turn up the charisma. You know how to like turn it up on stage. For guys like that, like for guys like us, I don't think that's like it's necessary to be like sitting down and like writing and painstakingly writing, because it's like, I don't know, our brains go a million miles a minute. I'm sure both of us at this point. And it just like, it doesn't, it's you just get, if you get stuck up here, like, you know, you're missing out on everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's also, I think even still the silence makes me nervous, but I can't make those nerves not obvious.
Right.
Like I can't make those nerves like apparent to somebody who's watching. Oh, look how nervous he is. Like, well, you know, I got to look like I've been here before. I got to look like I've done this before. Like for sure. So
good old Eddie Valentine, baby.
when it comes to like the roast battles, it's like we're kind of reading them off of our phones and stuff. So that kind of feels like I said, rehearsal, or like some kind of like or doing some kind of like recital. Where it's like I'm like, oh, let me tell you about this thing.
Yeah.
This guy's got this problem.
He comes out on stage with a supreme microphone, but there's nothing supreme about him. Let me tell you that. Like we could just be doing wrestling promos on stage for our roast. Like I want to do like more like heady weird bits. Like so the last time I did roast before we had that horrible bomb. It was like right at the finale. The last time I did before that was the finale of Game of Thrones. So I came up with this whole idea in my head that I was too cowardly to come up with, where basically the other person who I was roasting was already writing jokes about me, and I was going to come out in full like Jon Snow garb. And then I was going to go up to Matt right before the roast started and be like, I thought you told me this was a Game of Thrones roast, and then proceed to just roast the show Game of Thrones while this person is just doing roasts against me. But I was too much of a coward because I was like, I don't want to like ruin, like they worked hard on their end. I don't want to just go up here and just be like, hey, everything you did doesn't matter, you know. But that was like a fun idea that I had, because I think that like that's one of the things that Fight Club is really good about, is like they are fun with, like, if you get them on a bit, they love a good bit, you know. They love a good bit.
What inside of that, like that silence that makes me nervous? Comedy Fight Club really shines a light on that for me when they're like,
Yeah.
oh, no fucking pity claps.
Yeah.
So if I throw a punchline out there and nothing,
Yeah.
I'm like, was it really nothing? Was it
Yeah.
really nothing, or was it just you guys trying to participate in the no fucking pity claps rule?
Right. No, for sure. It is something, it is very intimidating sometimes when you are not in the right headspace for it. It cannot be a lot of fun. I agree with that. I agree with that for sure. But when they're with you, you can pretty much do what you want, which is why I also wanted to do that Game of Thrones things, because I was like, I think what I would be doing is I'd be basically being like, I know that you want me to roast somebody, but instead of doing that, I'm just going to do this roast of the format of roast so that I can kind of hide behind, it's like my excuse of being like roasting, but not really. Just because I don't like the format of roasts personally. I think like roasting is like, it's great. I see it as a skill that some people have that some people don't. I don't really think that's one of my skill sets that I want to develop as much as everything else, you know?
I also kind of think, and for years I rebelled against wanting to do it. Like
Yeah.
I remember Ash being like, "Bro, you should do it. Like you're a comic,
Yeah.
and there's other comics here that like you need to know. So like go be in there." And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not mean enough.
Yeah.
I'm too nice. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't pretend to be. Oh wait, I am a wrestler and I do pretend to be a mean guy. So it just makes sense. I can do this.
Yeah, but it's true. It's true. You can do it, but there's like so different than wrestling sometimes, you know? Like
Yeah.
wrestling, you can play into, no, I guess it's true in comedy. You kind of play to like your physical presence in the room and how you do everything like that. You can play it up that way, but I could see why you'd be like, I don't want to do roasting, you know? I understand that completely.
Well,
Do you know how many times I should show you the DMs between me and Matt? How many times I've ignored him for this fucking Fight Club thing? He's been like, do you want to do this one? Do you want to do this one? Do you want to do this one? No response. And then finally this one, I was like, fuck it, sure. And when he said I was facing you, I was like, this is going to be a visually hilarious battle because you're going to be this big and I'm going to be half your spot just looking up. And it's just we're going to have fun.
Yeah, I don't have any ideas. I mean,
me neither.
I'm just figuring, the more we kind of know each other, and I think really, and I've been wanting to actually say this to you for a couple minutes now. It's like whenever it comes down to like you wanted to like write together, or if you have premises you want to like run past me, even if it's not about our roast, if it's just about comedy, if it's just about jokes, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I would like to be that for you.
Sure.
If I could be that for you, that'll make me very pleased.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm with it. I got to hit you up. I definitely want to listen. We'll ruminate on some ideas. We got to figure out a way to make this fun for both of us, right? And I think like making it as fun and silly as possible and making it a show is what I really want to do. So whatever ideas we have, we can literally throw shit on the wall and it doesn't matter. It's just it's at the end of the day, as you said, it's literally like I am thinking of this in an outside perspective. If I was coming to the show, what would I want to see? And I'd want to see somebody going up there doing like you'd have like two good like regular roasts, and then you have some like two weird guys who are like, you've seen two roasts already. Let's do something that's not really roast common, you know? That's what I would love.
It's funny that you say that because like I do that with all my wrestling matches. Any show I'm on, I always say to whoever I'm in match with, like before we go out there, I'm like, okay, let's look at what's before us and let's look at what's after us. Let's be different than those things.
Right.
So this match is gonna
Dude, we're already on the same fucking wavelength. This is great.
Match is gonna bring them down. This match is gonna bring them up. This match is gonna bring them down, and we're gonna bring them up higher than anyone else has brought them up yet. And maybe we'll steal the entire show. Maybe
Right.
we'll steal the main event from the main event guys, if we're not already in the main event.
Right.
Because like it's almost like it's almost like for me to brag about being on the main events of the level of shows I'm on. It feels like yeah, who cares? Nobody really knows who you are,
Bro.
Like,
You gotta hold on to it for as long as you can. You
Right.
gotta hold on to what victories you get.
well, I mean, on top of that, dude, like going back to me talking to you about the purpose of things.
Right.
It's okay in sports. Everybody's school has baseball and basketball and football and soccer, and MMA gyms are in your strip malls and blah blah blah. Like to find a pro wrestling school, you really have to want to seek it out.
Yeah, you gotta look for it.
Meaning that we are inside of a very elite, like very like very obscure outer niche of society.
Mhm.
So we have to believe that we're even more special than we, like, while staying humble at the very same time.
Yeah.
It's a weird balance. And I think like my generation that came up, so let's say 10, 15 years ago, we were very much bred on, hey, don't be a mark, don't mark out, don't like that would be like if me
Yeah,
going,
I know.
you know,
marks are,
marking
yeah.
out is
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So nowadays it's fine to be a mark. That has kind of like, it's almost like when they're like, oh, stop being a bitch. Like that's expired. That has
Right.
expired. And just like being a mark has expired because all the marks are in wrestling now.
Yeah.
Like the biggest marks of them all are us.
Mhm.
We got in. We were that much of marks that we decided to get into it. So
Mhm.
now the business is only the people who were just the marks.
Mhm.
And it's like, all right, well, there's no real filter. There's no real like. There's no like. It's so like. I love inclusivity. I love
Mhm.
including people. I love the fact that people can feel represented. I love that, like fans, like a little kid fan can watch somebody who looks just like them doing what they dreamed of doing.
Right.
I love that. But you know, sometimes we're pandering a little bit too much to inclusivity because these people don't belong in this elite. And not to be a dick, I'm not trying to say like you don't belong, get out. But it's like it takes more than you just wanting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to do more than just want it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to be good.
You got to be good. You got to you just like the biggest thing is you got to like really show up. Like, and that doesn't just mean like when I was younger, I used to think like show up is just like physically be in the space, but like it's really like you got to bring it every time, right? You have to be present every time that you're going up there, you're doing your thing. Because if you're not, if you're marking out, people will tell. People will be able to tell. People are going to be able to know. I agree 100%, man. And yeah, you're right. It does kind of breed like there's like a level of mediocrity out there that's like pretty okay. Like everybody's pretty okay with it. They're not 100% satisfied. People do notice it, but
Well, I think that
you know,
there's I guess the saying is like happy to be there.
right.
Happy to be there. And that's it seems like so many people are just happy to be there and they're not dissatisfied with not being the best. And
Mhm.
that's what I think is missing with this like like this era of pro wrestling isn't going to get another Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
Like that was a different type of man.
Mhm.
Like that type of man doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And that and same with like even like the Legion of Doom and stuff like that. Like when it comes, remember the guys with the football pads with the big spikes on them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
Like
course.
that, those were a different breed of human. Like
Yeah.
those kind of people aren't really allowed to exist anymore.
Yeah, like Dusty Rhodes. Like you can't have Dusty Rhodes now, right? Just like a regular kind of. Am I wrong? I
No,
think Dusty Rhodes is a guy.
I think Dusty Rhodes was way ahead of his time.
Okay.
I think nowadays there's more
Dusty with Thrive.
There's more Dusty Roses out there than there are Stone Cold Steve Austins.
Ah, I see. I see. So maybe not Dusty Rhodes, but I see what you're saying though. I do understand what you're saying.
He's just a common man.
Yeah. But he wasn't. He wasn't a common man. He was an incredible man.
He was. He was.
That was the
He was.
point.
But for sure, when it came to the drama of it,
Yeah.
when it came to like the storytelling of it, when it came to like what's right for this like full picture of it, like the grand scheme of it, what's best,
Yeah.
I think Dusty was able to recognize that. And I think on top of that, like I talk a lot about now, like if you look at the WWE more specifically than like AEW, when you look at WWE, you look at like they have like staffs of writers, and none of these people are like in the wrestling business. None of these people came from the wrestling business. None of these people step a foot into the ring. All they do is write stuff, and then talent goes out there and does it.
Right.
And the talent doesn't come up with the stuff on their own.
Mhm.
They just the writers do it.
Yeah.
So I've been saying for a really long time that wrestling should go back to giving it back to the boys. Like that's how like Stone Cold came up with Stone Cold.
Right.
Like that's like there's a level of creative freedom that has been like so watered down.
Yeah.
So watered down over the years because there's so much more money and so much more like public interest. There's so much
Yeah.
more like publicly traded and
Monetization,
brand.
baby.
Mhm.
That's it. That's the big one. Ugh. And it's not like, of course, you want everybody to get paid. That's like what you go to, you want it. When you see the pro wrestlers, you want them to be paid well. They're risking their bodies every time they go out there, and unfortunately, they're not even getting paid that much either. That's the crazy part. And then on top of that, it's it's not even like it's not even them really. Like you're right. It's all the writers doing everything. It's a little like, what's happening, man? What happened to this thing? It's the same thing that's happening. Well, I wouldn't say. I don't know. Comedy's kind of in this weird limbo place where it's like it could go either way, where you have these comics that are like really good comics that are pushing out content on these platforms and trying their best to like be noticed. But for every one guy, for every one Sam Morril, there's 62 different guys that are like, no punchlines. Here's my crowd work,
Well,
Not naming any names, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, some people are really good at it. Like
No, of course,
like Big J is amazing.
Oh,
at,
come
like,
on! Don't
or
talk to me about Big
like-
J. He's one of
No,
the best.
I know he's. I know you like know him and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like big Todd Barry. Like
Yeah.
some guys are just so natural at the
Yeah,
crowd
but those guys
work
are old school. Those guys are from a previous generation.
and outliers
Yeah.
outlier. Like there's
Mhm.
not they're anomalies.
Yeah.
So I think that it goes inside of like, and I think if you listen to any like comedy podcast ever, people will talk about how like there's generations of dudes just doing impressions of David Tell, and there's
Yeah.
generations of dudes who are just doing their Mitch Hedberg or like, so it's you borrow somebody else's voice until you find your own.
Mhm.
And I think some people rely
Forgot that
too
last
heavily
part.
rely too heavy on the borrowing and never
Yeah.
the finding.
Exactly. Some people just they never go and find it for themselves because it's scary. It's scary trying to find your own voice because now you're like now it's not like now they're not laughing at, my impression of like Dave Attell mixed with George Carlin mixed with, Richard Pryor. Like it's not that weird mix of like whatever people I liked as a kid.
Mhm.
It's you up there that they do not like. And I think that's why I like going up with this, because every time I go up with this, it's literally every time I plug it in, I go, whatever you saw before this, whatever you see after this is going to be different than whatever this is. And if you're not on board with it, I'm sorry, it's happening. It's a great experience where sometimes I'll go up there and I'll have a full crowd of people that are just like checked out, immediately checked out, because they see this red microphone and they go, fuck this guy. Not even like they don't know what Supreme is. They don't know.
Douche.
Yeah, exactly. Some people are like, they're not happy about it at all. And I started doing that because I think one of the things that like when I was working at Gas, it was like, they have so much reverence for the previous generations of comedy. And I think it's great that they do. But I also realized that I'm like, look, if I keep worrying about what dead Patrice O'Neill thinks about comedy, I'm never going to be able to come up with my own theories on comedy. Like you go up on stage. Have you ever tried to sit on a stool in comedy? You'll have people that are like 2 years in being like, well, you can't sit down on the chair because Patrice sat on there. Big J sits on a chair. Fuck, Big J's not here. Patrice is not here. They're not in this room. I'm in this room. I want to sit. I'm going to fucking sit.
Okay, so I sit all the time.
Right. Okay. Good.
When I do
Good.
comedy, I sit all the time. But
Good.
Partly what I was gonna say is, are you? I'm sure you're familiar with Pete Holmes, right?
Of course.
Pete Holmes, he tells this he would tell this story on his podcast back when I first started listening to it. I'm gonna say this is probably like 2012. I started listening to it, and he would say that he was talking to his agent about like explaining the idea of what he wanted his podcast to be, and and the agent was like, "Yeah, that's what Mark Maron does. Like, why do we need that show? Mark Maron already does the show." And he's like, "Yeah, but Mark Maron's not me.
Yeah.
It's not
Exactly.
me, but it's me."
Yeah.
And that's the same way I feel about the sitting down thing. Yes,
Yeah.
that's me.
Mhm.
The same thing I felt about like me wanting to do this podcast, because I'm like, okay, there is nobody else who does the things I do the way that I do the things I do.
Mhm.
There's nobody else who is a pro wrestler and a stand-up comic and an actor and a podcaster and have like done this the like surviving shit and coming back
Mhm.
from it. Like
Yeah.
that's I would hope, and this is something I don't ever talk about on stage, and I hope to kind of write something about it just to make like comedy more personal. But it's it's now it's now been 2011 to now, right? So
So 11 years.
it's been 11 years since I had to step away from wrestling for a year because I had brain surgery.
Holy shit. Okay.
I had the same shit Matt had. I had that 11 years ago.
Wow.
But mine was up here. Mine was on the
Okay.
front of my, like they had to peel my face off, and
Yeah.
they like, if you see that this kind of dips a little bit in a weird way
Yeah.
here,
Let me see.
it's because my fat didn't come back in correctly.
Gotcha. Oh shit.
But
Okay.
because like when they peeled my face off and they
Uh-huh.
put it back on, they just stapled it back like 160 staples across all the way from ear to ear across the top of my head.
Uh-huh.
I didn't. I haven't been able to like make material out of that still.
Right.
But before that happened, I had kind of stepped away from comedy because I was dating a girl who was doing open mics, and then we broke up, and she started bringing the guy who she cheated on me with to mics, and I wasn't going anymore. I wasn't
Yeah.
do. I kind of stopped. I kind of stepped away, and then when the brain surgery happened, uh, I had to stop wrestling. So I had like this huge like performer hole that was,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that like validate me, look at me, I'm somebody special. Like that special something of me was really in a gross place. I had to like really go to therapy. I had suffering some real PTSD where I had identity crises, and I I stepped on stage again and I started doing comedy because I needed it.
Mhm.
And didn't do I had one joke that I did about me having brain surgery. I brought up that I had brain surgery and that got the laugh and it automatically upset me.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
hate when that happens. When they
I was
laugh at
like,
your premise, you're like, well,
I was
fuck.
like, because the joke wasn't even that good of a joke, but I had this severe nerve damage all on the side of my head,
Mhm.
right over here, and like for the first 6-7 months, I was just numb
Yeah.
for the most part, and then out of nowhere, I would just get these sharp pains in the side of my head, and I'm like, ah, and if somebody would be like, oh, are you okay? Like, not everybody knew that that was what I had suffered through. And,
Mhm.
and then I'd act like I was having some psychic vision, and they'd be like, ah, somebody with a J name, somebody with a J name.
Yeah.
Did you lose somebody important to you who has a J name because they're right here and they want me to tell you something? They want me to tell you something.
They want me to tell you that to fucking kick rocks, dude. They didn't like you. They didn't like you very much.
They said that last thing you said to them right before you died. That was the reason they died. You did
That
it.
was the reason they died. It's all your
You did.
fault. That's what he said. That would be fun if you just go up there and pretend to be a medium and tell everybody it's their fault. No closure for you.
The zero closure is my closer.
Yeah, zero closure is my closer. Fantastic. Great wordplay.
Thank you.
Oh my god. So what okay, so I know that you live across the street from your mom, but like what's your relationship with both of your parents at this point?
Um, so I don't have a relationship with my father really.
Hell yeah,
Uh,
dude. Fucking high five, dude.
yeah. So so
Yeah.
kind of similar to what you said about finding text messages
Yeah.
on your dad's phone. When I was 12, we didn't have cell phones. So
Right. You
uh,
had a rotary phone.
so my dad's mistresses would call the house
Oh shit.
and
Okay.
asked to speak to my dad, and he would like, you know who that was? That was my girlfriend. And he would say that to
Yeah.
me, expecting me to just go, okay,
Yeah,
I
like,
don't
oh,
know.
real cool, dad.
But like my dad, honestly, my dad was only in my life for maybe like 2 years or something. Um,
Really?
when I was 9 months old, my dad was cheating on my mom with my 14-year-old babysitter, and uh, she was 14. My dad was 26.
This was the 80s, right?
Yeah, this is 1984. Yeah,
Okay.
so
George Orwell's coming in his pants. He's like, bro, there's going to be surveillance and there's going to be 28-year-old dudes hooking up with 14-year-olds.
so then my dad my dad went off and like built a life with the 14-year-old babysitter. Like they went off and had kids together, and they were gone for a good amount. I didn't meet my dad till I was like 10,
Yeah.
and I finally when I met him, I was like, okay, yeah, I know who you are, like because he was like, hey man, hey buddy,
Yeah.
do you know who I am, buddy? And I was like, yeah, I know who you are, dude.
Yeah.
How would I? We're at your mom's house. My mom is your mom. Like,
Yeah.
of course I know who you are, you dipshit.
Yeah, exactly.
And then then my mom got sick. My mom and dad started spending a lot more time together. They wound up getting back together.
Mm-hmm.
So he left the babysitter and got back with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Then she got her pregnant. They had a kid, and then he was like, "Oh boy, we can't live in this apartment anymore. We got to move into a bigger house." Move into a bigger house, and he was like, "Oh, once we move into that bigger house, everything's going to be different." Everything was worse. I don't know if he said different. Was he specifying better or worse? But things were worse. He was
Yeah.
more of an abusive asshole because he knew we were stuck. He knew
Yeah.
my mom was stuck,
Mm-hmm.
and so my mom uh, figured out a game plan to move us out, and we
Yeah.
actually moved into this neighborhood that I live in right now.
Mm-hmm.
But like not in this house, not
No,
in
yeah,
these
right.
houses, but in this neighborhood. And and then my mom came out as a lesbian,
Hell yeah.
and and my dad was like, "Oh, she just left me because she's a dyke." Like it can't be him at all. It can't
Yeah.
be his fault at all. And
Nuts, which also makes you 1,000 times better than him already because you already have the like introspectiveness to be like, you I'm sure you look at your relationships and go like, that one was on me. Like, you're a
yeah,
little bit more
right.
accountability than your father.
Mhm.
I bet. But yeah.
So then then I guess he moved to Texas. He got married. He got married and took all four of those kids and moved to Texas. And they moved. My sister actually lives in Brooklyn now. My sister Bridget, who she's been to Fight Club.
Oh,
I I brought her to Fight Club with me once.
nice.
And man, it's a long weaved web. But
Yeah.
no, my mom came out as a lesbian, and then a year or so later, she got diagnosed with MS. So then she couldn't work, and then it was me, my older brother, my older sister, and my younger sister, and me and my older siblings all got jobs to kind of help with paying the bills, just like it, very
Yeah.
similar to your story. And I just was putting off going to wrestling school because I couldn't pay the tuition for so long, and then I got this job, and I like sold my bike, and I had my grandmother take me to the wrestling school.
Yeah.
Like it was for sure like the most like biopic of a story would
Mhm.
be your nan takes you to the wrestling school because your mom talks about how you're too broke to do
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
it.
But then you kind of grow as a person. What was that job that you got first? Because like my first job was I used to work in the Catholic school. I used to go to school at. I would go work for their sacristy as like the secretary. That was like what I would do. So I'd answer the phones on like Monday nights. They pay me like minimum wage. And then I would like hand that money directly to my mom, and she had like a little bit of savings, so she was able to hold us together. And then after that, we worked in catering, my brother and I.
Sacistry. I've never heard that word.
Oh, sacristy is like it's like where the priests live. Like they live in like it's like the
Like the
building.
rectory.
Yeah, like there's the rectory, and then the sacristy is like the office kind of area where it's like where they conduct like I need to book a priest for this funeral or something like
So
that.
there's three of them. There's like the convent and the rectory, and
The
then
convent, yeah, there's the convent is where they like go for education, I believe, and then
I
there's
thought that was like the nun house.
yeah, okay, maybe it is the nun house. I haven't been in the Catholic Church for a while, but yeah, I do know that like sacristy is the office, and then the other one is I don't remember, dude.
I I got taught to read in the convent
Yeah,
in summer school
yeah,
after first grade.
yeah. Oh shit! Wait, what?
Yeah, they I was having a hard time with learning how to read when I
Yeah,
was a kid. I'm
right.
kind of dyslexic.
Hmm.
See, I can't even say it right.
Yeah.
Dyslexic. so so I was having a hard time with reading stuff, and they held me back first grade, and then the nun brought me to the convent during summer school and taught me how to read, and she would smack the shit out of me when I
Jeez.
got everything wrong, but I
Wow.
learned. I
Yeah.
learned.
Not efficiently, but you learned.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I don't like let too much time go by without me practicing gratitude towards that nun who taught me how to read. She was really consistent. She
Well,
was really
she did two things for you. She set you up for reading, and she also taught you like that. Hey, if you're gonna get into wrestling, you're gonna have to deal with a little bit of pain. So you had like a little bit of pain threshold before you got into
Mhm.
wrestling because of her.
Yeah. She was beating her consistency drum, and the drum was me. I was the drum.
Yes.
That boy. But yeah, and then my brother came out as gay a couple years after that, and then my sister came out as gay a couple years after that. Now she lives in North Carolina with her wife, and they have a daughter.
Hell yeah.
And my brother lives across the street with my mom.
Nice.
and he's not in any relationships. He's painfully single for like for like the last 10 years.
Ooh,
He was
what's his deal? What's he do?
oh he loves his job. He works for like a company that does like medical testing where he goes and picks up samples and drives them places. So he's enjoying that. Like he
Hell yeah.
loves driving. That's his whole like piece. That's his zen to be behind the wheel with some Whitney Houston on or something.
Yeah.
Or
Nothing like a little
Cher.
bit of Diana Ross blasting.
He
You
loves
know?
the 70s disco and stuff.
Bro, I'm on a little bit of a disco kick right now. You know, I'm understanding where he's coming from. I do. They got some funky beats. They do.
All right.
I do respect it.
I had this joke I was doing on. You know what? It's funny because I'm thinking about also the part of Comedy Fight Club which I didn't want somebody to isolate some offensive thing I say and try to cancel me for it.
Right.
Uh, it the whole point of all this, the whole point of us doing this is to have fun and be light and
Right.
do comedy. So I was always afraid to write a book. I always wanted to write a book, but I was always afraid that I'd say something in the book that would hurt somebody's feelings. And by the time the book came out or the book had been out for a while, I had changed my opinions on that. I had growth. I really had a different outlook on things, but then
Mhm.
somebody looks at me and judges me forever for something I said, and they haven't been able to hear me say that I don't think that anymore.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, maybe I could just have a weekly show,
Mhm.
kind of like Wayne's World, when he's like, oh, the keeping up with the advertising. When
Yeah.
he's like, what if you had a weekly spot on a show where you could talk about what's new at Noah's Arcade? That's how I felt about having a podcast. And I was like, it's like audio is the new literature. Audio is the new um, medium. It's the new
Literature.
literature. Yes, literature is the word I was looking for.
Hell yeah. We got
And
there
and
together.
for sure, I mean, I will write a book at some point,
Mhm.
but I feel like when I was writing it, what I because I did go forward with writing some of a book, and as I was writing it, I was like, there's a lot of just like bitter stuff that I'm just trying to like get out in the air.
Yeah.
Stuff that like no one's gonna care about,
Mhm.
and like this is all gonna hit the chopping room floor. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll pause on it and I'll go back to it one day when I know I can fill it
Yeah.
with positivity and fill it with something that is a valuable takeaway
Mhm. Yeah.
that would also have a happy ending.
But for now, you gotta fucking trudge through the mud for a little bit, and then
Oh
you'll
yeah,
get there. You gotta do that for a little bit for
indeed.
sure. You gotta wade in those waters for a little bit for sure. Yeah, man, I'm a big yeah. It's funny you mentioned Wayne's World because I've been like, I've been trying to think of like I've been thinking about Wayne's World as like an idea, as like a concept as well, where it's like Wayne's World is just an idea of like a guy just live like in his basement doing a show, right? And then that's like, how do I do that? How do I have fun in that capacity? I also thought like maybe we should just do a roast of each other's dads instead. Like we should go up there and just be like, instead of like just be going like I'm supposed to roast Corey today, but fuck that. His dad's a piece of shit. My dad's a piece of shit. Let's just roast each other's dads. And then we go up there and we just fucking roast each other's dads, dude.
I dig it,
We
dude.
could we'll spitball that, man. We can.
My the joke I was just talking about was I used to do on stage was like, my dad's a pedophile. No, not me, not me.
Yeah.
Relax. I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
"Well,
yeah,
not me. Oh, calm down.
yeah.
And I was
Yeah, I know.
I was like, I'd say, oh, my dad left my mom my dad left my mom when I was 9 months old for my 14-year-old babysitter, and he was 26. I was like, you know what he orders at Olive Garden?
What?
Chicken statutory.
Oh, a good hey yo chicken
Chicken statutory, please.
chicken statutory baby. What's your ethnicity, by the way?
I don't know.
You're just
No,
mix of
no.
white.
Yeah, I'm just Caucasian as hell.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
I got the 23andMe back, and it was
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm 0.1% Sardinian, which is like it's like a Sicilian island.
right.
So that's the most non-white thing I am. Because I'm
But the
all like
rest,
Irish and English,
I
Scottish,
see.
Irish,
I
English, and
see.
Scottish.
Ooh, that's a lot of that's a lot. There's a lot of fighting in there, bro. Some of that was not
Caucasian.
consensual. Yeah, a lot of Caucasian, a lot of unconsensual Caucasian at some points, I'm sure. You got Scottish in you and English. That it's like when people find out, like when black people find out they got like 10% white in them. It's like you know where that came from. You know, you know
Yeah,
where that came from.
it wasn't on purpose on both ends.
True. Very true. Very true. Oh my
Uh,
god.
so just a couple more things, man, and then I'll send you off into the sunset with a hot dog and a handshake, and you can have a
Hell
nice
yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So there's a segment I like to call. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about it. It's called audio time travel.
Mhm.
Okay, so a point I like to make is you've heard me say it already that this audio, this video, this medium, this podcast is outliving us, which was really important to me. Like truly, uh, when we lost Chris Cotton, I had gone back and I listened to the episodes that I had with him where we talked about our love for each other and how important that was to have on the record. And the mourning process was a little bit easier. One of these days, one of us is going to lose the other one,
Mhm.
and I like to have on the record conversations where I talk about how I truly feel about people, and on top of that, I want the people who care the most about you to be able to stumble across this and hear a message that's heading directly to their ears.
Hell yeah.
So like your mom, your twin brother, they stumble across this audio in 2042. What are the messages going directly towards them that are ways that can inspire them to be a better version of themselves? Or maybe if you have kids one day and they'll
Yeah.
stumble across this.
That's tough. I think I would say to my mom and my brother. So to my mom, I would say you did a good job. You did a good like I'm 28 now. I got through the threshold. We thought we weren't gonna survive, but we did it. We got past that very scary point, and now we're in a much more comfortable place, and that's because of how you raised me, and I'm very thankful for that. And you did a good job. You don't need to worry about that anymore. And to my brother, just keep being true to yourself. You gotta be able to. You have a lot of really good talents, and you got a lot of really good strengths that you need to be able to recognize, man. You don't appreciate yourself that much, and I think you need to take care of yourself a little bit more. That's all.
To
And
that,
to my kids, if I got kids, um listen, you little shitters, I love you. If you're out there, if it's true, I love you. I hope you got some nice sneakers on. If you don't have nice sneakers on, I still love you. If you didn't get into my sneaker habit, that's probably a good thing. So I hope I raised you right. I hope I did a good job. Love you.
to thine own self be true vis.
Fucking all right. It's Corey. It's been real nice. It's been a real play. All right. I'm gonna say nice. Here's a nice thing for Corey. Corey's a nice guy. Corey's a nice guy with some bad wordplay sometimes.
Oh yeah, but I embrace it and lean into
Yeah.
it. I feel like sometimes when people go, "Oh, that's the cheapest and the
Yeah.
most
No,
unintelligent," I'm like, bro, it comes with some wit and it makes you think. It's
And
like,
you have dyslexia, so that's like an extra point as well, dude. You're fucking that's good. Like wordplay with a dyslexic, you've succeeded. You've made it, Yeah, if I had to say anything to you, I'd be like, Corey, You're a very cool guy. I've only known you for about an hour and a half in like in proper terms,
Hmm.
and you have a very bright personality. And I'm sure that's from working through a lot of stuff, and you should be proud of yourself that you've gotten to this point with yourself.
You know, I needed that. I really truly did. I mean, I'm kind of being silly, but at the same time, I'm being pretty serious because I mean, I have some self worth stuff I deal with pretty often,
Oh yeah.
and these days, especially like I just started this new job where I'm working from home,
Hmm.
so
Is that
like
why I'm hearing Teams messages all day? Because I'm
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
bro. Teams is my fucking nightmare, bro. That when I go to sleep, that last little bling
Boing!
bling bling, bro. That is nightmare fuel for me.
that's that's this other computer over here.
Yeah.
It's it's ridiculous, but
Hmm.
inside of that, it's like I my jobs that I've worked up into this, like right before this, I was a server at TGI Fridays, right?
Hmm.
So I was very charismatic and very
Hmm.
like interacting with people in a way where they could see my energy and really participate in the silliness and the fun and just the joy of it.
Hmm.
Mix that with I was also working at my gym.
Hmm.
I was also working at my gym part time, so everybody would come in, and it's everybody's into like this personal growth, and everybody wants their fitness goals, and people come in there inspiring the shit out of me, being like 70, 80 years old and still hitting the gym every morning. That it inspired the shit out of me. And then here I started working from home, so I had to quit both of those jobs, and now I'm home all day.
Yeah.
So my motivation to get to the gym sucks. My motivation to record podcasts when I'm really feeling like I'm not my true self. Like I struggle a lot with finding myself to look like I'm a phony.
Yeah.
So like
I'm
just
experiencing that too, man. Like working from home is I'm really glad you said that, dude, because it does I feel like, oh good, I'm not on an island by myself because it is the one thing that is like it feels like you are like literally like I like to compare like comedy itself to like marbles when like you drop a bunch of marbles on a table and you're just trying to keep them all on that table. Now with work from home, it feels like that table's even more wobbly because you're being pushed in like different directions as far as like how your job wants you to act, and then also like it's draining just being at home all day. You're not really interacting with people. You're
mhm.
not really like you're not using any of like, and you worked at a gym and you worked in serving, so it's like you're working your charisma, you're working your physical side, like you're a very active person. And you lose all of that when you work from home, and it's so hard to motivate yourself. I do understand exactly what you're saying, and trying to find whatever little energy you can is like it can be tough sometimes, but you're doing a good job, man. You really are.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, just a few more things.
Okay,
Real
hit me.
quick. Just a few more things. On the record, I want to make sure I say to you how important it is for me to get the point across where if you ever in your life from this point on feel like you're alone and you don't have any friends and you got nobody you can talk to who's going to like hear you and hold space for you and not judge you, I want you to know that I'll be that for you.
Hell yeah,
And
man.
I'd be honored to constantly, universally be at your service.
Yeah,
And
you too, man.
I, I want to make sure that that also gets. I say that all the time. Anybody who's ever listened to anything I've ever done, or anybody who's ever watched anything I've done, uh, the currency of your effort is so valuable to me. So I really don't have tons of calls to action. I don't go like, well, like and subscribe and make sure you hit the like button and let everybody know and share it. Let everybody like for sure if you've listened this far and you've gotten something out of it, by all means do some of those things.
Hmm.
If that's the things that you're look at these look at these sweat stains here.
Damn, look at those sweaty stains, bro. We've been going at it, dog. We've been verbally fighting on here. we've
So
been we've been going at it. But yes,
telling you how much I appreciate the
yeah.
currency of your effort. how much I appreciate the currency of the effort of the anybody who's listened to or watched this episode all the way through. If this is the first time you've checked it out, there's 276 other episodes streaming on all platforms. Check them out.
Mhm.
Like them if you like them. If you like them, if you don't, if you feel like you don't have the time and you don't, and you've expended all the effort that you can expend on consuming stuff, sure, move along to something else. And
But thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
thanks for hanging out. And I'm not a hard person to get a hold of. Really,
Mhm.
if you ever feel like you're going through something, always truly know that you're not alone. That just like what Luke just said to me, he's telling me I'm not alone. When I'm feeling like I'm feeling like my anxiety. This is me when I'm feeling my feelings.
Mhm.
There's a song that I'm really into these days. It's have you ever heard of Nako?
No.
Nako, a medicine for the people.
No.
He says what's the song? He goes uh, I can fuck with that. Hell yeah, that's my vibe. All I needed was a seat at the table. Shut the front door, sit your ass down.
Okay.
This is me when I'm feeling my feelings.
Hell yeah.
That's me. I'm feeling my
Yeah.
feelings now. And
Good.
so the way we wrap up every episode is I've actually been suggested from my best friend to kind of rename this a little bit. So I've been saying hypothetically, I've gifted you this show.
Mhm.
So this is the pilot episode, the first episode of Evolving with Luke. Luke Trovese, not Trevose. The first episode. And in a very Jerry Springer's final thought type of way, you could the most important takeaways, the stuff that's going to help somebody be inspired to be a better version of themselves, to evolve their ways of thinking. What are those takeaways in your best Jerry Springer's final thought, which is also now I'm going to be calling it go inside. Go inside. Because
Go inside.
my shoot last name, my real last name IRL is Goins. So go inside.
Go inside. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So here are my final thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming today and hanging out with us. I hope you learned a couple of things. I hope that when you go home today, you think about things and you go to yourself, you shouldn't be worrying about what everybody else is doing. Figure out how you can be a better version of you today, right? Think about how you can go about your life and not worry about what everybody else is doing and focusing on how you can present yourself in a way that helps bring light to other people, right? Because we're all not alone, right? We all feel these different feelings and we all feel alone sometimes, but you got to remind yourself that, everybody's looking for some connection and you can do your best to connect with other people. And I guarantee that you can make somebody's day brighter by doing so. Have a good night, everybody.
Great.
How
Do
the
you do
hell are
any-
we going to roast each other, man? We're two very nice guys.
Do you do any impressions at all?
I do a couple of impressions.
What's your best impression?
I do a really good New Yorker accent, but I can do who's a good one that I can do. No, I don't want to do I'll do I could do a pretty good Australian accent.
Do you know Renee Encarnacion?
I do know him. I've danced with the devil that is Renee Encarnacion.
So when I had him on, we sat here and we watched the pilot episode of Alf.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and then I was like, okay, in your best Alf impression, I want to hear you say the catchphrase of how we wrap up the show, which is "Be fun, have safe, keep evolving." And then I was like, I'll get everybody to do it as Alf. And for a long time, I was getting everyone to do it as Alf, but a good amount of people don't know who the hell Alf is.
I know who Alf is, but I can't do an impression of Alf.
Right? Nobody knows Alf.
Yeah.
I mean, so
I'll
nowadays I say, what's your best impression? And in your best impression, can you say, be fun, have safe, keep evolving?
Okay, let me do it as I'll do Jim Jeffries. Let me just
Okay.
get into my I like cock that can't this that yeah. Hold on, what is it again?
Be fun, have safe, keep evolving.
Hi everybody, this is Jim Jeffries. Be fun, have safe, and keep evolving.
That was great. Thanks for your time. Thanks everybody who stuck with us. Remember, be fun, have safe, keep evolving. Also, you know what? I want to make sure to remind everybody to be kinder to themselves as well. Be kinder to yourselves, and think about think about the type of person, like what you'd say to your best friend if they were talking like this about themselves, the way you're talking about yourself, and how you'd correct that. And they'd say, "Hey, be fun, have safe, keep evolving."